Jason Bermas here for WeAreChange.org, and we've got a very special interview today. The mainstream media did their best to make it about his man bun, but Sam Spadino and Kelly Richard were able to get into a rally at Duluth, Minnesota, get very close to the president, and hold up a picture of himself and Jeffrey Epstein. And I know there are a lot of people who are Trump supporters that this angers, but the truth of the matter is there is a connection between Epstein and Trump, and you could see Trump get visually upset when you put this picture so close to him. So Sam, Kelly, thanks for joining me. Why don't you tell me how this all came about, what the plan of attack was, and why you did it in the first place?
Hey.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So it is a question that I've had for the past couple of years, ever since I heard the name Jeffrey Epstein and started to do a little digging. What's the connection between Trump and his terrific guy that he's known for 15 years?
You're referencing an article that's out there. I believe it's a Vanity Fair article where he's asked about Jeffrey Epstein, and this is, of course, before his troubles with young women, which he pled guilty to one count of sexual acts with a minor. He's paid out dozens of lawsuits, and I mean, this is something now that's been going on for over a decade in civil court through several trials. Again, that's a direct quote from Trump, but then Trump kind of played the Epstein card during the election. You know, he mentioned him a couple times. He mentioned him on Hannity. He mentioned him during another debate. People who were proponents of Trump, such as Roger Stone, were constantly mentioning Epstein. You had Donnie Deutsch mention Epstein on the Joe Scarborough channel. He was a Trump supporter. And you even had someone like Eric Prince, who took private meetings with Trump, talking about Epstein's relationship to the Clintons. After he got elected, he seemed silent on the matter, and so did his supporters. And I think that's where you were going with this, correct?
Yeah, it's a story that popped up, especially right before the election, when there was a lawsuit put out between Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and a Jane Doe that accused both men of raping her when she was 13 years old. So that just disappeared a few days before we all voted and kind of went down the memory hole. Now, I had also seen that Bill Clinton was a very close friend of Epstein, which was really troubling to me as well. I was not a fan of Bill Clinton before, but that made it a lot worse. And so, yeah, it just seemed to be something that Trump wanted to weaponize or get out in front of before it could be used against him.
You know, he used it during the election. It was something that Hillary Clinton never mentioned. And then, you know, we had this QAnon phenomenon where people were going to 4chan messaging boards and believing in imaginary indictments, and that people like Podesta were going to be taken away to Guantanamo Bay, and all this hysteria. But here we are, a year and a half into his presidency, and really nothing has been addressed along those lines. And we have seen some other mainstream articles connecting Epstein to Trump. One in particular that I want to talk about. They mentioned that Trump and Melania had been on the runway of one of their private jets and were waiting for Epstein and Giselle Maxwell, who is all in these lawsuits. You hear her name almost every time. And he commented to him, "You broke the cardinal rule, Jeffrey. You were late for someone else's plane." Now, obviously that insinuates not only was he about to ride on Trump's plane, but Trump had ridden on his plane as well. And that's something that the quote-unquote alt-right will never discuss. Why do you think that is?
Their connection together is truly just so intertwined. I mean, even looking into Epstein's home, where he had assaulted those younger girls and where he had a sex slave, that was only a 4-minute drive to Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. and that is before he was banned from Mar-a-Lago, but you can't deny any sort of connection between this man and Trump.
He's bragging about knowing him for 15 years back in 2002. We don't know how long that relationship continued. Epstein had Trump's number 14 times in his black book. Why is that? And if, as Trump himself said, he knew that Jeffrey liked his women young, even younger than I do, it was basically an open secret that he was a pedophile, and even much worse, or just as bad.
Both, connecting them, as Giselle had actually had a part in hiring on a girl at the Trump Tower as a towel girl, and she would basically be forced into giving massages, and that, of course, she's going to back down from that statement, because when you're going up against the most powerful people, in the world, truly, Epstein his clients are only like strictly billionaires, and just that link in that community, that elitist community, is just so strong that anybody is going to not want to speak out against that, or, after speaking out against that, have trouble sticking with that.
Intimidation that we've seen this time and time again. I want to go back to Mar-a-Lago, however. Mar-a-Lago is a big point of contention. James Patterson, the best-selling author on the planet right now, does a book called Filthy Rich, one of his only non-fiction novels. It is ignored by everybody in the media. It has 3 stars on Amazon, whereas most of his books have 4, 4.5, 5 stars. I read it. Now, Patterson's recently done a book with Clinton. He doesn't pull any punches in the book. He talks about Clinton, Spacey, Chris Tucker, publishes a lot of the documentation, and Trump, and goes into their relationship. And from his research, and again, this is his research, we really don't know, but we do know that there was some kind of a cutting of the ties. He's claiming that one of the Mar-a-Lago billionaires had his daughter pimped out by Epstein, and that's when Trump cut the ties. Whether that's true or not, that's what's alleged in the book. But the bottom line is, no one has been brought to justice other than Epstein, and Epstein really wasn't brought to justice. He served less than 1.5 years in jail, where he was able to leave almost every single day. He basically slept there, if you could even call it that. He was supposed to pay off all of these lawsuits, and apparently, after he was able to get out, Alan Dershowitz, his personal lawyer, who's also been named in some of these suits, started taking care of those lawsuits and maybe not paying them out. And there's been some obstruction there. It's also very interesting to me that Dershowitz, who was named and denied it, I will give him that, it's never been proven he did anything, but he sure went full throttle on that Trump train on every single media outlet after Trump was elected. You saw him on Fox News. You saw him on CNN. You saw him on MSNBC, constantly defending Trump's policy.
Yeah, Alan Dershowitz, longtime Democrat, presumably a Clinton supporter and friend, and even connected to Bill Clinton as a lawyer, is now very openly pro-Trump, and just a pretty unusual connection, especially considering his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the protest itself. You guys decide to go in there. You get in. You get some media attention in the beginning. However, the American media was utterly silent about, I couldn't find your name. I was able to find you through a Google search of Epstein with your open letter, which I suggest that everybody read. It's an open letter about the Trump-Epstein connection. That's how I was able to connect with you. But all American media made it about your appearance and the insults that Trump threw at you instead of what the protest was about. Now, the Daily Mail did run a headline about Jeffrey Epstein. That's a United Kingdom publication, and a lot of people would say it's very tabloid-esque, and I would give them that, but it's also a great news aggregate. The Guardian covered the Epstein connection. Outside of those two publications, there were a handful on the outskirts, but to this day, if you type in Jeffrey Epstein, you do a news search, well, your protest comes up, but it's all man-bun this and man-bun that, and does he live with his mother? Let's just get it on the record. You don't live with your mother, do you, Sam?
No, I don't. I live alone. Sorry, Mom. I did go home to Mommy and, give her a big hug and tell her that was from Donald Trump. But, we got into the rally, no problem. I was profiled almost immediately by a police officer after getting through the metal detectors. So, nice try. I think he must have seen the hair, and maybe I looked like I didn't belong.
It was the peace glasses. It was the American flag peace glasses. They don't want that. They don't want any of that.
So Fox News also, they dug some stuff up on you. And, I got to admit, I'm a little bit intrigued by this one picture. We're showing it right now. And you tweeted it out on June 10th. It seems that you're at some kind of an event with Stormy Daniels. Okay, now,
Yes.
Stormy Daniels, everybody knows who she is. She had sex with Trump for money. She signed a non-disclosure agreement saying she was going to keep her mouth shut. She broke that, and then she went for lawsuit after lawsuit. It's been thrown out twice. There have been some other alleged conspiracy theories trying to, connect her to the Nexium cult and all these other things. Again, that's alleged. Who knows? But tell us about your encounter with Stormy Daniels.
Well, to be fair to Stormy, she she says she had sex with Trump for free. The money came later. But we just are fans of Stormy, proud of what she's doing, standing up to Trump, and saw that she was on tour in Wisconsin, and we're in Minnesota, so just took the drive over to the Madison Strip Club on the 9th, and got to see the show.
Yeah.
So
I got to talk to her, and it was like the best moment of, I think, everybody inside's life all together, cumulatively.
Well, I'm glad that you guys had fun there. But for the record, guys, it doesn't seem like you're part of this left-right paradigm. You talked about the Clinton connection to Epstein. I think there's a way to go about criticizing this president where you can kind of maintain your independence. And I think we're going to leave it at that. Sam, Kelly, great work. I mean, you guys are on the front lines. You're doing something that really nobody else is doing. And you're holding this administration's feet to the fire, especially in light of how they talked about Epstein in the run-up to this. So I want to thank you guys for some great work. Thank you for joining me. Anything you want to say, wrapping it up, guys?
Who's Jeffrey Epstein? Who is he? People need to know.
Yeah, we're waiting, Mr. Trump. You can answer the question anytime. We know you know who he is. And, I wrote you a letter. Would love to hear back. So we'll see you on Twitter.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. This is WeAreChange. Thanks for watching, folks. And we will be back with more powerful information and interviews later this week.